ngā peka tītoke kei ngā manga maire o te wao, nau mai anora ki te pai o Party People, e tūkana atu nei I runga I ngā iarere o rangi nui kia tatu I hoi ai o na painga ki runga kia papatua noku e hora nei me arawa uri katoa. Ko mihi ngā rangi tēnei e whakamāno atu me te tautoko o te Puna Whakatongarewa. Welcome to our first show of Party People for 2022. Coming to you from our new purpose-built Omicron bunker, Mai Whare, where I'm joined by my new flatmates, Aotearoa's odd couple, the Honourable Tau Henare and Shane Te Pau. Kei te pihea kōrua.
I missed you, Tau.
I didn't miss you, but gee, I had a good Christmas.
Good.
So a month off the ciggies?
Yeah, a month off the ciggies.
Great.
On the vape, I'm feeling wonderful. I'm
Bit
on
more-
the kaupapa.
Bit more bucks in your back pocket.
Yeah,
all
man,
helps.
amazing. You know, a round of golf. I can afford a round of golf instead of paying for a packet of smokes.
And how are you feeling a haura nei?
Oh, all right. You know, I've got an appetite back, and putting a weight on around the guts.
That's good.
I'm old, so
Yeah.
I'm allowed to.
Yeah. And pihea koe, Shane?
Well, paira watu, I went down home, visited the whānau. It was good to see a connection there, but my gosh, it's February. I'm a political animal. I'm ready to get back into 2022.
Yeah, you've already
Yeah.
been on a few shows
Yeah.
already this year. Well, let's start with you, Tau, because we're just a couple of days shy of Waitangi Day.
Yep.
Very different Waitangi Day this year. There was no official commemorations up there like we have in the past. Can you remember anything even remotely like this?
This Waitangi Day has been strange because I woke up on Waitangi Day and forgot all about Waitangi Day. I went to play golf.
Yep.
I just enjoyed the weekend. I know it was very remiss of me. I did one thing on Waitangi Day. On Twitter, I did a shout out to the whole of Aotearoa, and I said, "Happy Waitangi Day. Be the country that you think you are."
Ka pai.
And I think that's a lesson for me for the rest of the year and however long I've got left on this earth, is be the country that you think you are. Not what you are, but what you think you are.
I'm Marika. And you, Shane, you were very active on the social media all
Yeah.
through Waitangi Day. I think you watched everything.
Watched everything, and you know what? When Tau says be the country that you want to be, you know, we had you and my whananga Oreni on 3, you had Moana, you had
Stacey
and Stacey, and you had
Julian and Mani on
and all
RNZ.
of that. And isn't that all we want in terms of media, with the plurality of voices?
Absolutely.
Why do we have to do this just on Waitangi Day?
Yeah.
Why can't people, professionals, great broadcasters, why can't they have a bigger platform on a more constant basis? Why do we have to have the biggest radio station that does so-called news in Aotearoa have white folks over 55? There's a space for them, but they've monopolised the airways, and then they monopolise the perspective.
Tēnā koe
Sure.
mo ira whakaro. We're not on Waitangi Day. We're on every second Tuesday, whānau, 6:30 p.m. on RNZ on air, and then again on the web. So yes, more of that, eh? Now, just thinking, I asked my mate Oreni the other day about, you know, some of her memories of Waitangi. I thought would squeeze a bit in there. Have you got a Waitangi story?
I got lots.
Give us one.
But I think the first time I went to Waitangi as a minister, as the Minister of Maori Affairs, on the pai on the other side was the old man Graham Rankin, and for some reason he got the pip with me. He wasn't the only one, but he started.
What year was this?
Pardon?
Did you say 95?
96.
96, oh yeah, fiscal envelope.
Well, actually, 1997 it was the first Waitangi Day that I went to as Minister of Maori Affairs, and he just got stuck into me, and I was carrying the koha, and I roto I te kaupapa tikanga Ngāpuhi, the koha doesn't go on the ground. So I thought to myself, here's a big check that I'm supposed to deliver to the other side. I was so wild that I up and presented to the protesters, to Ata Haruira, the check which was supposed to be for the other side. but I made it null and void by putting it on the ground, and everybody knew that. So it didn't go to them, but it did. It was just my way of saying, hey, if you're welcoming people on, then do it properly. You know, I don't know whether I'm old school or just stupid, but I think that if you are welcoming people on, doesn't matter who they are, they might be your enemy, but if you go to welcome somebody into your own home, then treat them nicely. You can have an argument, you can have a big argument, but treat them nicely.
Ka pai. And Shane, Tau wouldn't have been the only Māori politician that's been given a go, given a hard time.
Yeah, but, you know, by and large, you know, that's clickbait. 5 or 6 minutes of a day. I've been to Waitangi 20-odd years. It's actually quite a lovely vibe, by and large. No, my memory, and interesting, you mentioned Orini, her auntie, Hinaro, my first cousin, through the T-shirt, and all she did was challenging the Queen, and I still feel very angry to this day, and I know our Croa did before he died, because she was beaten by Maori men carrying taihaga today, and if they're listening, I hope that they think about that and they feel a level of shame.
Me patu I te whakamā.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it was fantastic that Orini raised that as one of her moments too, a moment that she felt proud of her auntie, and just that stance of, you know, honouring the treaty. We talked about how, you know, back in the day it was the treaty is a fraud, and then it was honour the treaty, and I think Joe Williams spoke in his about how it's taken us decades to kind of just even work out what exactly it is, you know, our frustrations, and, you know, and get into this position that we can now verbalise it.
Yeah. And I started in the era of the yellow T-shirt, the Waitangi Action Committee, WAC, and the silhouette of the people with raised hands. And like you say, treaty is a fraud, treaty's not a fraud, honour the treaty, blah, 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 blah. And we're here today.
Yeah, and what a wonderful time to sort of think about it. It's just over 50 years since now Tamatoa started, and others started this spark.
But you can't get to where we are without going there.
Yeah.
We're going to go to politics now. The latest Reid Research poll has National back in the 30s, but Labour's up too. They're on 44%. The Greens up to nearly 9.6%, while the ACT Party is down at 8%. The Greens have overtaken the ACT Party. Did you see that coming?
Oh yeah. I saw it coming by way of when they took on Luxon as the leader. I think, one, he settled them down. Two, I think he laid the law down to all of them, including Harete, and saying, hey, this is the go. We have so many months to the election. This is the plan. I will speak. No one else will. And that's what we've seen. Okay, he hasn't said a hell of a lot, but that's the whole political game.
How would you rate his start?
Oh, I think it's been wonderful. You know, there will be people in National who are going, God, thank you.
Yeah.
For basically balancing the ship. It was knocking on the rocks under Simon and Judith, and I think he's done pretty well. You know, the criticism has been he hasn't said anything. That's what I want from my leader. Not to say too much. Hell, he's in the opposition.
Yeah, well, he has. He said following the retreat in Queenstown that it won't be just about the economy, but it'll be about people too. What did you make in that speech?
Oh no, and he is right, and I've got to agree with Toe that the grown-ups are in charge, and he wants to move away from the bad days of Judith. I think that speech was a repositioning. He's going to get a natural bounce because he is different. He's very different from Judith. We'll see how that goes. But I think when we do an analysis, we can't just do Labour national analysis. We have to do left-right analysis.
Yes,
and
I was going to say that too. I wanted you to talk actually about the knock that's happened to ACT and what do you make of that?
That is to be expected because it's about that centre-right vote. It's about going back to national. But you know, the right will be concerned that their overall numbers have not. And you know what? It's been a tough month for the government over the last 3 or 4 months, and I still think they've got another at least a couple of months where it's going to be tough. But the centre-left, which is Labour, Labour, Greens, and let's not forget the Maori Party on 3%, is at 56%. That given all is pretty incredible numbers.
Yeah, I mean, with what's happening with COVID, and the Prime Minister was just saying this morning that possibly we're going to have it's going to be the end of March now where we really feel the heat of Omicron, and then a year after that will be the election. I mean, do you think they're going to be able to keep those numbers on the left?
I think that, my personal view is that I'm over the use of COVID and Omicron and whatever you want to call it, as a buffer between what you are doing and what you're not doing. Now, I've been a stern and harsh critic of Willie Jackson and others in the Labour caucus. I have to take my hat off to Willie and the team, the Maori caucus, and I suppose the wider Labour Party, for what they've been doing behind the cloak of COVID. We've got the 5G spectrum, we've got housing.
Let's get into that then, because I just for the past 30 years te kai whakapūmau I te reo, the Maori Council and others have fought for a piece of the radio spectrum pie, and last week the government delivered a piece, nearly a quarter of the pie, landing on 20%. So the radio spectrum, if many people might ask what even is that, it's the airwaves. Basically there's only so much room on it. One end's a high frequency, one end's a not so high, and everything's divvied up. It's communications, it's TV, it's radio, TVNZ, 3, Bravo, or RNZ Concert, they're all on there. So 20%, that's pretty spectacular. What does it mean?
It means that Māori radio stations can go better frequency, get better coverage, but actually that's the small part of the story, because it's reasonably old technology. The data component is 25%. So that means that Māori can negotiate a deal, not with Spark or not with 2 Degrees. They can go to the big companies, to the Microsofts, to the other companies, and they can do a deal that gives us some international exposure. That deal, because it's 5G and beyond new technology, that deal is much bigger in terms of earning potential than Sea Lords ever was.
And the worry will be, and I'm sure Willie and their team will be wondering who looks after it.
Yeah.
And who do we employ to spend? How do you divvy it all up and all of those sort of things? I'm keen.
So that is the question that's been asked. And so for someone who has worked in national politics, thinking about Sea Lords and all those other ones, what do you think? How does it work?
I think iwi deserve to be at the table. Yeah. I think that the community, urbans, need to be at the table, and I think that professional people like yourself should be at the table as well, running the show. Should there be an electoral college similar to Maori TV? I don't know, but I think that's where a lot of their thinking will be right at this moment, is who.
And if I can afford this criticism, I think that we've appointed too few people to too few boards. I'm not being ageist, but this is a young person's game. They understand it because they grew up in it. We're going to have a lot more people in charge of the allocation of spectrum and how it can work.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to, because you jumped into spectrum, and I was going to leave that for a bit later, but it was a great cope-up to jump in. And let's go back a little bit to national politics, because I wanted to talk to you about the Christopher Luxon's announcement that if they become government, they will raise superannuation to 67. Thoughts?
My thoughts is that if you've had the comfort of a nice office like I have all of my life, all of my working life fundamentally, it's okay. But if you were my father, who barely got to see his 60s like many of our fathers, many of our mothers do, it's not good. It's not good. It limits their earning ability, because the reality is that not enough of our people live beyond 70 and above.
What would you do? Would it be a capital gains tax?
Well, I think if you're going to change things, you're going to have to change things because it has a reaction. But in terms of superannuation, I think we've got to leave it as it is. It's imperfect because, someone on $300,000 still working can get it. A bricklayer gets pretty much the same. It's not perfect, but I think we just have to leave that as it is. And I can also say to Mr. Luxon, it ain't a vote winner amongst old folks.
So, you're saying that everyone should get it. So, someone like Winston Peters should still get it.
I don't think it's
Bob
perfect.
Jones should get it.
Yeah, I don't think it's perfect, but if you move one area, then you've got to play around with it. I think that one of the successes of our superannuation program
If I can be frank, I'm pissed off because I'm 61 and now I have to wait 7 years,
Yeah.
6 years instead of 4 years.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and it's about what you guys said. It's about there are people in our society that don't deserve it. Not because they're black, white, red or green, but because they're already wealthy. They're already wealthy, healthy. Most of the people that...
And still working.
And still working, and they earn a good crust. But there are people out there that don't earn a good crust. And when it comes to retiring, Shane is absolutely right. Maori, in general, don't get to have a piece of the pie that they put money into for the whole life.
Given that they would say that you would die 7 years younger than a Pākehā male, should you be allowed to take your super early?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a great fan at cashing your superannuation in. You know why? Because you can actually go out and afford a house or something, or you can spend it on what you need to spend it on.
When Tau was with one of his former political parties, New Zealand First.
Oh.
No, but when you were, bro, I reckon we got the superannuation equation right. When we personalised it, Winston was right, and we took it to the public, and it got ousted by 95%.
That's right.
Yeah.
But what he was on about was personalising your super and guaranteeing it under your name. No one else's. It doesn't belong to the government.
So
and can I also say having an insurance component. So if you did die at 61, they would have an algorithm. That's what they call it these days, but a formula where the widow or the widower would get a portion of that dough.
That's right. And they don't.
Yeah, and they don't.
In other places like Finland, for example, if you continue working, I think there's a two-tiered super system. So you can, still earning $70,000 a year because you're an accountant or whatever, and you're working 30 hours a week. And then you're still getting your super, so that doesn't kind of make sense. So I think what they're doing in other countries, and I wondered if you'd support that here, is that you have a base rate, and then if you're earning, then that kind of tops
I wouldn't like to scare the horses out of the stable, but what we're talking about is means testing.
Yeah.
Which we've had before.
With different names.
Of course it would. And he raised the issue of the capital gains tax.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to need it.
But is it good to be the fact that someone, the opposition, people say, you always need a good opposition, so we've got an opposition leader who's actually brave enough to have a conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, brave enough to have a conversation.
And it's actually putting their name on the line because
because that's why you've seen the small rise.
I predict this, though. It's a conversation, but it will not be the policy platform for the National Party going into the next election.
Why would you say that?
Will be?
He's just announced that is National's policy.
No.
For goodness sake, stop. It's too early in the year to be talking lies from the Labour Party.
No. He did not say it's going to be policy.
Yes, he is.
No. He said we want to have a conversation around it.
No, I'm pretty sure he said if they get in, they will raise it to 67. So is that not a policy?
That's a policy.
That's a promise.
That's a promise, mate.
But they won't. But I think what Shane's saying that they won't campaign on it.
I think he's nuanced it. Let's see if it is.
I think the point is they won't campaign on it. What will they campaign on?
They'll campaign on the economy.
Well, they're talking about
forward.
people. They're talking about social issues. So, and I think they talked
tax
about
credits.
tax credits. I mean, what's your thoughts around there?
Well, on tax credits, it looks after folks like us. It doesn't look after folks that really need it now and then. But I think what you will see from the National Party, because they know this is where they're going to win or lose the election, is in the middle, and they're going to be talking sort of mainstream issues, economy, distribution of income in a fairer way than perhaps someone like Judith Collins might use, that sort of language. He'll run to the middle.
Do you see, is that what this is about, that they're just trying to grab a little bit more of the centre?
A lot of what we will see is rhetoric. And it's about, the nice face of National rather than the ugly one. So it will be back to that John Key sort of style leadership. It won't scare the horses, as Judith and Simon were about. I think Christopher Luxon is actually now. I didn't think he would be, but I actually think he's a good helmsman.
That's a chopper because we're in central Auckland, so just letting you know what that is.
I thought we were in West
And it's not us. It's not.
I hope they're not spraying your puha patch.
No, I've got a taro patch out there. It's not doing so great at them.
Anyway, I'll have a look later.
I want to come back to, since we're on the National Party, there'd been a few hiccups during the break with Hari Tihi Pango posting things from certain protests and the rest of it. Will the National Party, the engine room, will they be looking at who's going to stand the next election around?
Oh yeah, I mean she's already gone as far as I'm concerned. They already wrote her number up on the blackboard. Blackboard.
Yeah.
I think it is. They know that they've got to get to a space where they are all talking the same language and the same policy and the same message. Because if they don't, the other side, the left, will run away with it. And so I think they will. But it'll close up.
Will Conservative Maori be interested in this party now?
Well, they really haven't in the past, always spoken about that, but the percentage amongst Māori, Conservative Māori is pretty minimal, and then it's sort of spread if someone like Winston challenges it seriously.
I want to talk about Winston because below 20%, what was this, 2%, sorry.
Yeah,
First time
well, he's registering. He's not active. He'd be reasonably happy with that. And when he does become active, those numbers do bump up a little bit. But the problem that Winston and Shane and they've got, and they'll realise this, is that the pool is a one that you combat amongst national, a little bit of ACT, a little bit of New Zealand First. What he wants to do is some of that Labour vote.
Yeah, was the top party his votes?
Yeah, it is, and it isn't. And the other dynamic I think that could be very influential in this election is, say, the Christian Conservatives get 4.2%. They get, but if they get 3%, they get it from the right. That could be the difference between the right governing and not.
A lot of the people that you mention, like the Tops Party and even the Christian sort of parties, the Coalitions Party, they're all bougie, sort of know-all, wannabe. We know what is right. Well, you don't, and that's why you never get in. And I suppose my message to Winston, he's had an enormous impact on New Zealand politics for the last 40 years. It's time to actually enjoy your retirement, and I don't think he'll be back. Honestly, I'll call it.
He's calling it.
Yeah, I'm not going to write him off, but I can tell you this:
he's writing him off.
If I was a betting person, which I am, he's running.
Let's go to local body politics because there's another.
So is this where I announce my candidacy for the Mayoralty?
People have been talking about you, Auckland Mayoralty.
Yeah.
Here's your opportunity. Yes, no, Ian?
Well, I'd just like to say that I'm not running.
Okay, well, we've got a couple who have actually put their names in the hat. So, Whatanana Efeso Collins and Auckland restaurateur Leo Malloy, sorry. Thoughts about those? Well, Vic's not in yet. Neither is Richard Hills, but they're just names.
But my good friend Richard, you can't organise committees, you can't talk to people, you can't get your surrogates to drop stories and then say, well, I haven't officially declared,
right.
But let's
talk about this.
But let me see the overall picture. What we haven't got is a marquee candidate, like someone who's going to run away with 60,000 votes. Like
who's
Gofted.
that?
Well, I'm not sure who it is in the current scene. But what we don't have is a marquee event. I reckon that you could win the Mayoralty with 60,000 votes because it's quite possible if you have those five candidates, they will dissipate. They will dissipate. Hey, just do the numbers. I'm picking though that Richard Hill has probably spoken to some of his key supporters that he can't get the number of votes in West Auckland and South Auckland. I think that Efeso Collins will be the centre-left approved endorsed candidate.
And if it was Efeso,
I'd vote for him.
But I know you. But what about the rest of Auckland? How would he do it?
It's going to be. I think that it's going to be difficult because one of the things that you have to get over, and this is why I said what I said earlier. Be the country that you think you are. Yeah. And that means basically voting for a blackfella.
Yeah, I know. But would you vote for a restaurateur?
He does this little boxing thing. Who does he think he is? Mike Tyson?
But he's still going to have a lot of money behind him. He's going to have a lot of campaigning behind him. But will it be enough? And maybe it will be, like Shane says, it's going to be a pretty even low... Yeah.
He will suck up the oxygen, and he will have 60,000 votes. Could get him in there. I just wouldn't write him off. I think that Efeso's big problem is this: to run a mayoralty race with any real input, any gravitas, you need $500,000. That's going to be hard unless he's the officially centre-left endorsed candidate. I'm also picking that other candidates haven't declared, and they may well
And
do
what
so.
about the other
Will,
lady?
will Labour endorse him?
I think they're going to endorse him
think they have to.
unless someone else...
What about a wahine?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's one on your list.
Who?
Isn't she, was her name Viv Bex?
Yeah.
Oh, right, of course, yes, Viv Beck.
No.
Now she, I think, is an unknown quantity. She's clever. She actually knows the Maori world, and so there's a little tick for me.
Where will she sit on the political spectrum?
I think she's dead centre.
Pretty centre.
I think she's dead centre.
Yeah.
How does she know the Maori world?
I wouldn't like to say.
Yeah. Well, she runs an outfit called Heart of the City. That's what she's sort of known for. She's hunting after that endorsement, that CNR. Because also what you need is two things, Ato. You need money and then you need a machine. And I think Leo will lack... he'll get plenty of money because he can write his own cheque, but I think he might lack a machine. If Fessa will want that Labour Party green city vision machine that does exist throughout Auckland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's
see.
It'll be exciting.
Yeah.
It'll also. I wonder if Fessa will be able to get his community behind him.
Well, I can say that in terms of the people I've been talking to, Pacifica and the Labour Party that had some issues with him, those issues no longer exist.
So I guess then, if you consider, and I've heard this being mentioned before, just how well Maori and Pacifica Health has rolled out in support in terms of the vaccinations. If you can get those people campaigning, and would you?
And this is where it comes back to what Shane said is about that is why he wants the Labour nomination, because it's that machinery. You've got the unions, you've got the health institutions.
We've got to wrap up this.
Okay.
But thank you. It's been absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for having us over.
Ki tōku kāinga. We'll be back here again in a little while. Kāti, kei ngā mata, kei ngā ata o tātou atua ka hiki konei te wāhi kia mātou i tēnei wā, kia hoki atu ai te Maori o tēnei wānanga. Ki ngā ringa o Ranginui e tui honei o Papatuanuku anō hoki e takato nei koe ko te ia o mihi tēnei tonu tēnei e koko tonu nei pai mariri.